Welcome to the February 22nd, 2022 regular business board meeting of the Lower Merion Board of School Directors. We are asking that those attending tonight's meeting in person to please wear a mask. Your mask should remain on when giving public comment at the podium as well. The board believes it's in its best interest and the best interest of the students of the district to hear comments from district residents. An opportunity will be given for public comment in person and through the chat feature, which will be read by Mr. Roos. This meeting is being video recorded with sound for public broadcast. All participants joining via Zoom will be muted upon entry. Welcome. Thank you all for coming tonight. We are going to start with a presentation from Dr. Mumine.
Thank you so much, President Klein. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This evening, in my superintendent's report, I want to take some time to focus on two issues. One being COVID mitigation. I want to talk about COVID mitigation as we've been receiving a lot of information from some of our parents and community in regards to off-ramps. And as you know, within the last few meetings, that has been a large topic of discussion. So I want to provide some clarity and also some timelines and what the administration is looking to implement and recommend for the future. Secondly, there has been a lot of dialogue in the community regarding student discipline in regards to our diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. So I want to talk about that a little bit this evening and to discuss where this topic will proceed to. We're going to continue to have a further discussion at tomorrow's ad hoc meeting for diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I want to give some clarity to some of these issues and to provide them for the public and for the board. First, COVID mitigation. And as I said previously, we've talked about off-ramps and we've been asked about how are we making the decisions, the role of the health and safety team, what data are you looking at, and then give us some dates, Now, I must say, to give kudos to the board and to the community and to the administration, and before my arrival, the Lower Merion School District was mask optional in the summertime. So it shows that this plan, the health and safety plan, is a fluid document where there's on-ramps, off-ramps, there's copious discussion around these issues on a daily basis. In regards to where we are now, there is compelling community voice on both sides of the issue regarding masking. The good news is that the most recent data indicates that Montgomery County generally and Lower Merion School District specifically have moved from high transmission to substantial transmission. So in regards to outdoor masking for the elementary schools, the MCOPH guidance indicates that within substantial transmission, masking outdoors is optional. Further, MCOPH recommends that changes in mask usage should be made based on 2 consecutive weeks of increased or decreased school district level of community transmission. The good news is, last week, February 11th through 17th, represented 1 week. At the conclusion of this week, we as the administration will review the county level and, if available, school district level data. If data at either level reflect a second consecutive week of substantial transmission, we will move to mask optional outdoors for all students and staff effective February 28th. Regarding indoor masking, members of the health and safety team are carefully reviewing the question of departing from the MCOPH guidance as it relates to indoor masking. We are optimistic that rates will continue to fall and allow for students and staff to unmask in accordance with MCOPH guidance, which is moderate transmission for 2 consecutive weeks. We are not currently recommending that the board revise the current health and safety plan that incorporates MCOPH recommendations regarding indoor masking. Among other reasons, We anticipate continuing the use of Binex Now tests for the purpose of the Mask to Stay program. Use of these tests are conditioned upon adherence to the MCOPH masking recommendations due to the fact that they are being used under the MCOPH license. Minimally, this will run through the first week of March and likely beyond. Now, we have heard that the CDC may be reviewing or revising their guidance regarding masking, which may yield changes in the MCOPH guidance. We will review the issue of indoor masking with the board again on March 15th. So again, the good news is we are in substantial. We're currently in the throes of week 2. So again, we have a date. We'll review the data on Friday, and we hope to come to a recommendation for implementation on February 28th to remove masks for outdoors. The next step, once again, we're keeping our eyes on the data, we're keeping our eyes on the discussions and the information that we're receiving from CDC and how that may impact MCOPH. And we'll come back to the board in regards to indoor masking on March 15th. So I wanted to make sure that we got some dates out there, giving some clarity to what guidance we are following in regards to what data that we're looking at or examining as an administrative team. And we wanted to put this out in a public meeting for full transparency. The second issue, which I referenced earlier, is in regards to student discipline and incidents of staff discipline around the areas of our DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. Over the past week, we've had incidents in Ballackenwood Middle School, which students received disciplinary action. There have been conversations and disciplinary action with staff, more specific, one staff member in regards to an incident. And there are letters that come out from the building level as well as the district level at times, depending on the incident. I wanted to say with full transparency, any letter of any sort that leaves the building that may have the principal's name on it, and definitely any letter that leaves central office that has my name on it, it goes through a full review. What I mean by that is letters, when we have incidents that require a letter that needs to be distributed, there's a team that surrounds this. That's my key administrative team, the building administration. We're looking and investigating, looking at the investigation of the incident, and we skillfully and in a calculated fashion push out the letter. I must say, in full disclosure, please know we are dealing with student incidents and staff incidents at times. Students have rights and responsibilities as well as staff. So it's not an attempt to be coy and to be coy and try to intentionally leave out information. We cannot give names and actual specifics to incidents, Now, taking that a step further, when we're talking about student discipline in particular, and as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. For example, the incident that we have investigated and we've dealt with last week in regards to 3 students, we have to be very sensitive to what our jobs are as educators. We are here for children. We know this, and as I look around the audience, I want to make sure I'm correct in saying this. We know as children sometimes make mistakes. Children, as educators, we have to look at children unless the incident is egregious in nature or there's something that they're more variables than just a simple disciplinary matter. We have to look at children with redeeming qualities. Schooling is not only an opportunity to educate children in the areas of academics, it is an opportunity to educate children in how to operate appropriately socially, how to work with them from their emotional vantage points, and also how to prepare them for citizenship. In this ever-changing society, we have to keep that into perspective. As The energy around the incidents last week, yes, there's a lot of energy on social media, a lot of energy online. And that's okay. Now, there are ways that you push that information to the school district via teacher, principals, assistant principals, central office, superintendent, etc. However, I'm asking for some grace in regards to how we deal with our children. As adults, we are very much equipped to deal with adults/educators. We are equipped to deal with these incidents. But we do have to look at the mindset of the children also. Every disciplinary matter doesn't entail that we kick a student out of school. It shouldn't work that way. And we've done a great job here in Lower Merion School District of not simply excluding children. We don't have zero tolerance policies. So we have to continue to work with children and help them grow and understand that you make a mistake, we have to hang on to, as stated in our diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, restorative practices. We are an outstanding educational community. And I've been using this terminology as, this imagery. We have the responsibility to deal with issues consistently, and I'm taking it in reference of being thermostats. We set a temperature and we operate accordingly. We can't react when something is hot like a thermometer. If it's a hot issue, hot, zero tolerance. If it's a cold issue, we don't have to do but so much here. We have to be consistent. And keep it in mind, we're dealing with children, and children sometimes make mistakes. Now, on the other hand, while we're dealing with the adults collectively in this mix, there are various levels of progressive discipline. There are honest mistakes that happen in the classroom. I'll be the first one to tell you as a superintendent, and I laugh about it now, but I wasn't laughing about this in 1996. When I showed a video in class and I didn't review it first. And that video was Romeo and Juliet, and it had a handsome actor in it. And there was a silhouette of this actor at the beginning in the prologue, and he was disrobed. And my middle school girls reacted to it. It's a handsome actor. Reacted to it, and I said, oh my goodness, and I put my big poster board up in front of the television, and I ran down to the principal's office and said, oh my goodness, this actor was in the prologue, while the credits, while everything's rolling, he's in a silhouette, and my kids reacted, and he said, Khalid, that teaches you a lesson, make sure you review the videos before you show them to the children. And I said, I got it. It never happened again. Never happened again. That's when we're looking at the redeeming qualities of our educators. Sometimes they make mistakes. In the event that we have educators, which this has not come to my attention, where we have educators who are nefarious and nefarious in great disregard of the DEI policy, progressive discipline will look different. It will look different. It has to. Yes, there are redeeming qualities, but looking at the optics around incidents, especially around incidents of discrimination and racism, and even in some instances inserting politics into your discussions in the classroom could be very explosive incidents. So I wanted to say publicly, as superintendent, yes, I'm aware of things that occur in the district, and yes, we are very much agile as an administration to deal with these incidents. Hopefully, we don't have incidents, but we are in the school system. Things do happen at times. I can't make promises, but what I can tell you to assure you that we are taking all of these incidents seriously. We will hold a discussion tomorrow at our ad hoc meeting, whereas the agenda was really designed to have a workshop around an administrative regulation under one of our areas under our diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. Tomorrow, we're going to flip the agenda where we hold a forum to discuss the issues that I just spoke of, more so the DEI issues that I just spoke of. And if that takes the time of the entire meeting, that's what it is. It's going to take the time of the entire meeting. We can reorganize to do our workshop for the administrative regulation. We want to hear from the community. We want the community to hear from us. And we are hopeful that action planning will come out of these discussions. As you know, we've been going through an intense process of working with consultants from SAGE for our DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion work. Our lead consultant, Victorious Hall, will be here tomorrow. He'll be present at the ad hoc meeting via virtually. Will be present, and he will be engaged in the discussion and taking notes, number one, because as we take this information and we push it back through our committees, such as CARE, we have information that we can provide with the community's vantage points on some of these issues. So as we continually move towards action items, that's the important step. How do we get to action where, we know that this DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion model is a journey, but how do we get to prominent action steps? So his presence will be very important tomorrow. Also, in regards to action steps and what I mean, simplistic as it sounds, when working in diversity, equity, and inclusion and looking at, consistency, as simplistic as it sounds, it really begins not only with the professional development that's happening at this level in the school system. The action steps are to get the diversity, equity, and inclusion work into the buildings, all the way down to the student level where we're talking about student voice, and we engage in a conversation, both high schools, around this. But also working within the student handbook that shows shows the transparency of when these things happen, these are the potential consequences, without having a zero tolerance type of flow or flavor to them. This is the process that we go through. This is what restorative practices looks like and what it means. Again, when dealing in a school system, our numero uno customer are students. And students sometimes make mistakes. We have to continually guide them so that when they step outside of district lines, Lmsb, and they're off and away into the real world, we know that we've done our due diligence and a great job with preparing them and equipping them to be, change agents in this ever-changing society. That's the goal. But we have to shift the narrative, the pendulum from here's an incident, off with that student's head. We can't do that. We can't do that. That's not how this works. Or a staff member who makes a mistake, when we say that disciplinary action has occurred, we have to build that trust and authenticity. That's a true statement. I'll end on this because there's a lot on the meeting agenda this evening. Within this past 100 days, and again, we have the 100-day plan report is coming soon. We're looking at March or April to get this thing out. One of the beauties about this is that it's a learning experience for me. I get to learn the community. I get to engage with students. I get to engage with the board, engage with the administrators and all the educators in the system that, that are on a schedule, different groups and things of that nature. And that is an opportunity to take a look at the things that we do, the things that we can do better, and how do we take that energy and build something great for children. Also, it gives an opportunity for me, which coming from the outside, look now being inside the school system, to say, wow, this is really good stuff. And believe me, there's more great things happening in Lower Merion School District that we can build upon than things that we have to work on. Not absent-minded to the fact that, yes, there are things to work on. And I'll be very transparent in putting those things out there, and we'll put plans and dates behind some of the action steps and work that we will embark upon in this superintendency with this team. So I wanted to make sure that we put out there, and trust isn't just given, it's earned. So these words, I trust, will have some influence, and they're important, so you can hold me to them, because this trust piece, we're going to build this together. And then we can really take a look and shift the narrative when we have this thing really running. Remember thermostat, we have this thing running at 70, where we can really celebrate the great things that we're doing and being able to push innovation in front of the children and how they can take these areas and not only just have exposure to them, but lead. With that said, if there aren't any questions from the board, that will conclude my report. President Klein.
Thank you, Dr. Mamine. Before I move on to questions of the board, I'd like to remind everyone in the audience that we have asked everyone to wear a mask in our buildings. That is the policy that we have. And I think it's important that we model for our children what we're asking of them, that we do the same. Let me open up to the board to see if there are any questions from the superintendent's report. I do want one quick correction, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
The board meeting is on March 14th, not on March 15th, just a date, a quick correction in dates. And then I'd also like to clarify regarding the health and safety plan. The way it is currently structured, if there are 2 weeks in substantial, then the MCOPH recommendations are that we can be mask optional outside. And I just wanted to clarify or add in there that should we be 2 weeks in moderate, which is sort of the next step down, that the recommendation from MCOPH is to be mask recommended or mask optional indoors as well. I just wanted to clarify or just to confirm that.
Thank you so much.
Any other comments, questions? Anyone? Okay. Moving on to the committee meeting reports, I'm going to start with our students. I believe, Ms. Wu, you went first last time, so I'm going to ask Mr. Feldman from Harriton.
Sure, thank you so much. So, of course, like Dr. Mumine, I will also start off talking about COVID. So, as I've mentioned previously at Harriton, precautions are still being taken pretty seriously, which is great to see. Students really caring and taking this issue seriously. Some students around the school have been sort of speculating about possible dates for masks becoming optional. Some have looked to friends in other school districts who have recently switched to mask optional. But of course, students and staff at Harriton definitely appreciate the board's transparency on this issue and their continual looking into this issue. As someone who recently had COVID, I can personally attest that the district systems are working well. I was still able to join all of my classes virtually and didn't miss a beat. So sports at Harriton, most winter sports have concluded with a few teams still competing in district playoffs. In fact, the Harriton girls basketball team is right now competing in their district playoff game, so the best of luck to them. Overall, there was a very noticeable increase in attendance for winter sports from last year to this year at the school level, which is great to see. So overall activities going on at Harriton. Today was February 22nd, 2022, or 2/22/22. So in celebration of this, the senior class actually had a taco truck and a cupcake truck parked outside of the cafeteria, which was giving away free tacos and cupcakes to seniors during lunch and learn. Additionally, free long sleeve t-shirts were distributed to seniors during lunch with a great design on it. It was overall just a great gesture that made a lot of students happy, which is also great. The 15th annual Dr. Harriton show is this coming Friday, so contestants have been practicing for months and are very excited to show off what they've put together. But of course, it's not just the contestants. The full school is really gearing up for the event, which is amazing to see. That wasn't exactly something that we had last year, so it's great to see come back. Additionally, we received the great news today that capacity inside the auditorium has been raised from 50% to 100%. So now there are more in-person tickets available if anyone is interested. And the performers, contestants will also not have to wear a mask while performing. This was announced to the whole crew today, and there was some very loud cheering, which is great. Virtual tickets to the show can still be purchased on the website heridan.org. The other big event that had some news recently was the senior prom. It was scheduled to take place at Reading Terminal Market. The COVID restrictions inside of Philadelphia put prom in jeopardy for the seniors. However, within the past 2 weeks, Philadelphia changed its rules, so senior prom will be taking place at Reading Terminal Market on April 30th. There was definitely a big sense of relief and excitement among seniors. I can also personally attest. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Ms. Wu?
Good evening, everyone. I don't have much to report tonight, especially since we've all come back from the nice long weekend. Like Harriton, COVID is still being taken seriously at LM. And also like Harriton, our winter sports are wrapping up, and I can say that it was an exciting season for all of our winter sports. And everyone is really excited that spring sports are starting up soon. That should happen sometime next month. And students have just registered for their classes next year, and we're beginning to meet with our guidance counselors to discuss our future courses for the next academic school year. Students that are also taking art electives are also really excited for the upcoming ISC art show. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wu. Our next report is the January 26th Communications Committee report. Mr. Lee?
Thank you. The Communications Committee met January 26th at 7 p.m. To discuss the following agenda items. The committee received an overview of the School and Community Relations Department covering the department budget and the scope of responsibilities, which include the 900 series of district policies, the Lmsb website, social media, photography and videography, event planning, media relations, community relations and communications, emergency communications, and last but not least, strategic communications and training. We received an overview of board docs and the functionality available to the public and how to navigate. We received an update on the recent Lmsb website outage, which was caused by a ransomware attack and infiltration of FinalSite, our current website host. FinalSite performed an investigation with the assistance of data privacy attorneys Mullen Coughlin LLC and cyber forensic investigators Charles River Associates. The investigation concluded that they did not see indications of direct file access or data exfiltration of Lmsb content, and that the threat was contained. FinalSite is taking steps to increase security of their hosting platform. There were also several questions from the public leading to a step-by-step review of how to access certain areas of both board docs and the Lmsb website, including how to subscribe to Lmsb email updates, as well as a discussion about improving the right-to-know request form. The next Communications Committee meeting is scheduled for March 30th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Next, Ms. Kalish, if you could provide the report from the Curriculum Committee meeting from February 2nd.
Thank you, President Klein. We began by hearing a presentation on the acquisition of library materials for Black Rock Middle School. A needs assessment was performed based on current circulation figures and ongoing input from student library users and student groups. The library team actively partnered with district cultural response teams and assured inclusion of texts that represented a great breadth of individual identities. The final cost will be $219,996.57 for 12,540 items, including a large number of graphic novels, which are in high circulation at the middle level. Next was the annual report on PSSA and Keystone Achievement data. This year was novel due to ongoing COVID accommodations. The PSSA was not given in 2020, and in 2021 had a large number of students statewide that opted out. As such, PDE did not provide any of the comparative state and district data that it usually does, and stressed that 2021 data is not appropriate for longitudinal comparison. LMSD saw a 73% increase in opt-outs from 2019 to 2021. No PVAS data is available for 2021 because that's a longitudinal measure. Going forward, the district plans to use this data to inform pre- and reteaching and bringing back in prior practices like hands-on experiences rather than demonstrations as COVID restriction wanes. Lastly, we heard the final presentation on the new middle school schedule. Highlights include the flexibility and collaboration opportunities of teaming and longer blocks. The schedule maintains the current 4-day rotation. There will be 4 lunch periods to allow for smaller groups, and the first and last lunch periods will also be provided with a snack break. Sample upper and lower house class schedules are available in the presentation from this meeting in board docs, and if I had tried to explain them to all of you, we would have been sitting here for a very long time. There will be 7 new courses included in the new middle school curriculum beginning this fall. Teams are forming now and will begin to meet this month. And planning is currently underway at BC and Welsh Valley for how to accommodate the new scheduling approach. The next meeting of the curriculum committee will be March 2nd at 8:30 a.m. in this room.
Thank you, Ms. Kalish. Ms. Robinson, if you could provide the report from the February 4th Policy Committee meeting.
Thank you. The Policy Committee met on February 4th in this room at 8:30 a.m. For review was a discussion, actually we had an update and overview of a discussion of policies being on board docs instead of on the Lmsb website. We are going to pilot the next month some policies to see if that is feasible and viable, and go forward with it. For proposed for adoption, we had Policy 340, evaluation of professional and temporary professional staff, or employees, sorry. And Policy 341, evaluation of support employees. This is just the final conclusion of our revision of employee practices policies. And then we discussed Policy 908, volunteers. There was no changes to any of those since last month. First review, we had Policy 412, which is for repeal, and Policy 512, which is for repeal. We brought up one policy called high school graduation requirements, and due to the many revisions that are required, we had tabled it for a future policy meeting. Administrative regulations. We discussed 206-4, which is relating to assignment of pupils within the district. Superintendent authorization to assign students to maintain class size targets, which was a review of our partner schooling program, which we are going to continue through the opening of the new middle school. We also discussed purchasing AR 610, which was revised for legislative changes. The figures to go for a bid are revised. And for discussion, we had some policies that we are going to update and discuss a framework for revision of Policy 235, student rights and responsibilities, Policy 132, homework, Policy 254, student wellness, to include social emotional wellness as well as physical wellness, and AR 101, which is for equity regarding framework for development of that policy, administrative regulations, sorry. The next policy committee meeting will be on March 2nd, I believe, 3rd, 4th.
March 4th.
Thank you. I was looking at it and couldn't read it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. And our final committee report is Ms. Schaffmeister with the February 17th Facilities and Purchasing meeting.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Our Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting, as Lucy just said, was February 17th. It's 8:30 a.m. in this meeting, in this room. So we recommend from that meeting a list of the district bills for approval covering January 19th through February 15th. of 2022. We recommend the following items for approval. For Lower Merion High School, $8,744 to supply labors, materials, and equipment to complete relining or painting of all the lines, stencils, markings, etc. on the synthetic running track. These were fading and will be repainted ahead of the spring track and field season, which I understand from the high school reports that they're excited for sports to begin. For Marion Elementary School, for $8,950 to Bayberry Systems LLC to upgrade the fire panel. This will replace out-of-date internal components within the existing fire alarm control panel. For Black Rock Middle School, we have a whole list of them. It's $7,140.85 to Podcaster LLC for digital lab equipment and services. $6,932.44 to Gov Connections for a 3D printer, as the other schools have. This cost is part of the CoStar's contract approved for the Career Technology Program at BRMS. $24,286.24 to Allegheny Educational Systems, Inc. for a laser engraver, air punt, and BOFA Advantage base and filters that is similar to what other middle schools have for their Career Technology Program. $7,095.64 again to Allegheny Educational Systems, Inc. for a vinyl printer and cutter, also for the Career Technology Program. $29,680.20 to Dell Technology for Dell laptops, monitors, docking stations. These are part of the CoStar's contract again and are approved for administrative and support staff members at BRMS. $17,044.95 to Apple Inc. for 4 video editing iMacs for use in the digital studio and 6 iPad Pros and 1 9th generation iPad to use in the podcaster studio. Start kit and base station at BRMS under Apple's education pricing. $4,982.78 to Dell Technologies for point-of-sale equipment and software under CoStar's contract for the nutritional service and cafeteria purchases at BRMS. $31,317.88 to purchase of equipment and supplies for the Career Technology Program, and that includes $29,774.12 to Midwest Technology Products and $1,543.76 to Paxton Panister under Lancaster, Lebanon. We recommend the following contracts: $219,996.57 to Follett for the Library Study Collection at BRMS, which you heard Shayla mention that was presented at the curriculum meeting. We recommend $10,552 to E+ for cooling units and service agreements for Lmsb locations with servers. We recommend $101,644 to Optiv Security, Inc. to configure a secure Microsoft Cloud tenant named Azure that will serve as the foundation for our multi-factor authentication project for district email services as they move to the Microsoft Cloud. We recommend approval to authorize $307,705 to Mobile's Modular Space to dismantle and remove temporary classroom at Marion Elementary School, Penwyn Elementary School, and Bella Kinwood Middle School. You might have remembered this. This was in the January facilities purchasing meeting, but was tabled for the January 24th board meeting, pending receipt of a permit for the BRMS traffic light, and we received that permit on January 17th. We recommend approval to authorize $94,500 proposal from Davey Tree Experts for pruning of trees so people can reinstall the power lines to the easement at BRMS. The reinstalling the power lines was approved at the January board meeting. We recommend approval of the following Black Rock Middle School change orders. To Borough, a change order for number 12 for $5,239.77, and this is an increase due to the need to relocate for the relocation of electrical lines. I have this is the list of the IMC change orders. Number 39, $25,820.78 to increase for additional framing of the for gypsum wallboards for the soffits and fascia and more fire extinguishers. Of number 40, $12,609.71 increase to modify framework and rework cold form metal for the DENS class in Area C. Change order number 41, $57,962.97 for labor and material to undercut a section of the school roadway to improve its strength for vehicles, especially for the buses. Change order number 42, $646.56 increase for rework of drywall around electrical cutouts. Change order number 44, happy to say this is a $2,212 credit for deletion of interior storefronts for Nest in 3 locations. Change order number 45, $47,413.43 increase to modify lintels for 9 nests which required for structural integrity. And lastly, change order number 46 for $35,100.90, and it's an increase for adding needed roof drains in Area B that weren't shown in the drawings. So as a BlackRock update, and it's still on time and with budget of $87,985, $87,985,821 and it's currently at $86,827,309. There are have been added slides. If you look at the facility and purchasing's agenda on the site, and you will notice there's a few more slides that have been added to it, and this is for they include change orders that are upcoming and that are in dispute, and these amounts could potentially take us over forecasted estimates. So we will be looking closely at moving forward to determine any cost-saving measures. As updates for where the BlackRock Middle School stands, it's mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and finishes continue in all areas. Permanent power is now on in the building, and fiber optic is being installed. And that's it. The next facilities and purchasing meeting will be on March 17th at 8:30 a.m. in the same room, in the administration boardroom. And as many of you know, it'll be St. Patrick's Day, so I'll be wearing green. Join me and wear some green. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Schaffmeister. Next on our agenda would be the addition of any additional agenda items, but we do not have any tonight. So we will move into audience recognition. At this time, we will hear public comment. If you would like to speak at tonight's meeting and have not yet signed up with Mrs. LaPera, I believe the sign-up sheet is back there still, but will come up in a moment. Please do so now. And for those of you that are joining us via the webinar, the chat feature will now be open, and you will see a 10-minute timer that will appear on your screen. You can submit your comments and/or questions via the chat feature. For both the public comment in person and also on the chat feature, please be sure to begin with your full name and where you reside within the district. It does not need to be specific street address, just neighborhood is fine. So Ms. LaPera, do we have any in-person comments? I believe I saw people signing up. We have a general policy where we allow our students, if there are any students in the audience that would like to speak, we allow them to go first, sort of jump the line, so that it's not too late of an evening.
We'll start with, is it Doreen at Abramson? Doreen?
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Doran, and I live in Villanova, Pennsylvania, and I am a 6th grader at Welsh Valley Middle School, and I would like to discuss the school board's policy on masks. Schools around the country that are not mandating masks are doing as well in COVID numbers and hospitalizations, and likely better than us in mental and physical health, says the New England Journal of Medicine. Masks are not a matter of our health and safety, but a matter of control and supposed safety. Mental and emotional health count as much, as suicide rates have shot up by 50% since the beginning of COVID, as a recent CDC study stated. Science has proven that viruses like COVID are so small, there is no way that a mask could stop it, a November 2021 study says. Yet, you're still wearing them inside of our schools. Do this, do that. It is for your health and safety. This is what this school board is doing to us, as most of us finally sit here and obey. Everyone in my mother's office wears a mask, stays 6 feet apart, and are fully vaccinated, but they all got COVID. Most kids in my school are vaccinated, stay 6 feet apart, wear masks, yet many kids I know, including myself, got COVID at the end of last year. If you have any long-term evidence that masks do work, I would love to see it. Finally, let kids be kids, and let us make the decisions with our parents as to whether or not we should wear a mask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next student is Emily Wang. Emily?
Good evening. I'm Emily Wong, and I'm an 8th grader at Bala Cynwyd Middle School, and also a member of the Environmental Action Club there. This year, we identified a problem in our school that we wanted to fix: styrofoam packaging in our school lunches. At BCMS alone, about 500 lunches are served per day for 100 school days per year. This means that we are throwing away at least 90,000 styrofoam containers per year. We researched this problem and learned that styrofoam is a toxic material that does not degrade in a landfill and contains harmful, cancer-causing chemicals that get into our environment. I'm not the only BCMS community member upset about the harm our school is causing. 110 BC students also signed a petition urging that we move away from styrofoam. Our club has reached out to our cafeteria manager and director of nutritional services at Lmsb, Ms. Castaneda. They both expressed their dissatisfaction with the situation, but in the end explained that the pandemic required our cafeteria to shift to disposable trays due to the lunches being served in multiple locations, and their budget simply does not allow for purchasing anything other than styrofoam, which is the cheapest material. I know that the district takes pride in our green practice and values sustainability in our schools. However, our massive styrofoam usage in our cafeterias is not consistent with our community's values. I ask that the board put enough money in next year's nutritional service budget so that students aren't forced to eat off of styrofoam in Lower Merion School District beyond this school year. Our club is willing to do anything to help out this cause and move towards greener lunches. We have worked hard since October of this year to make a change regarding styrofoam, and we continue to hold out hope that our activism will make a difference. Please know that we are eager to partner with you and welcome any feedback about how we can help. I appreciate the leadership you've shown during this difficult time, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. I will, Dr. Mamine and I will talk and research that further.
Yes, and thank you, Doran, and thank you, Emily, for coming up to the microphone and voicing your opinions. Very, very well stated. I will say, Doran, you did hear earlier this evening, we talked about the off-ramps in regards to masking, so we're moving in that direction. And Emily, your item in regards to styrofoam, we've already had a preliminary discussion around that in regards to reducing styrofoam. And right now, you hit it right on the nose. During the pandemic, it's about cost and availability. And as, again, it's unbelievable how we're talking about COVID impacting like everything. But as availability and the costs begin to go down with the materials that are environmentally sensitive, more sensitive than styrofoam, yes, we are looking at them. So I applaud both of you for your willingness to come share with the board, the administration, and the community. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm sorry, I did miss one more student. I apologize. Pearl McShane?
Is this on? Okay, yeah. Hi, my name is Pearl McShane, and I live in Belmont Hills. I'm a sophomore at Harriton, and I want to talk about the Oakwell issue. So, when I was at Welsh Valley, I was in the Waterbound program. We would go on field trips to Rolling Hill Park once or twice a month, where we'd walk around and learn about plants and animals. It was a good mental break from being in school, but we were still learning. I learned about trees and identifying and appreciating them. We're in an emergency on this planet. Globally mature trees are disappearing at a devastating rate due to wildfires, development, disease, and rapidly changing weather patterns. Trees are not just standing there, they're working hard for us at every moment, storing carbon, preventing erosion, capturing stormwater, providing habitat, and creating breathable air. It's the global responsibility of those of us who live in wooded areas to protect the trees in our communities. Lower Merion is rich in trees, but there's a huge environmental value difference between ornamental trees and curated yards and the type of well-established 200-year-old trees woven together in a wooded area like those at Oakwell. One mature tree can provide the full daily oxygen needs for 4 people. Doing the math tells us that Oakwell, untouched, currently provides the oxygen for 1,000 Lower Merion children every day. Replacement saplings promised by the school district will not come close to providing this service for at least 100 years, if ever. I know that the purpose of the plan is to benefit the kids, but isn't the best plan for us to actually invest in our future? The fields could be made somewhere else, but the forest can't be replaced unless we feel like waiting another 200 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Katie Calabrese, Jasmine Chang, Christina Chang, and then Jamie Bassman. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Katie Calabrese. I live in Wynwood. Last week, several of us attended a meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners requesting updates to their outdated and unreasonable guidance on COVID-19 mitigations. This was after our requests for updates from the Office of Public Health were ignored. Commissioner Arkush literally rolled her eyes at the questions about guidance on masking, and a public school parent from another district who was at the meeting in person was physically removed for asking questions about masking. I was present virtually. She wasn't yelling, they just didn't want to listen to her. So the bad news is, I don't think that help from the county is coming, but I think you already knew that. They are delinquent and ineffectual, and other districts have gotten that message and moved on. There is good news too. Specifically, the Montco OPH and Board of Commissioners have made it clear that they want Montco public school boards to figure this out for themselves. They don't care what you do, so you should do what you want and what you think is right. What they think doesn't matter. They're not going to jeopardize they are not going to jeopardize our Mask to Stay program. They do not care. I am also not clear on the tie between Mask to Stay and the Montco COVID guidance. The county's Mask to Stay document says it only applies to unvaccinated staff and students, and we barely have any of those. You don't actually have to figure it out for yourself. That's the other piece of good news. As you know, CHOP Policy Lab is willing and able to help you make a plan, and there are a bunch of local school districts and private schools who have done this work already. Most of them in counties with functioning, competent departments of health. You can just adopt what they've done and do it here. The Montco guidance is outdated and it's unreasonable. Here's the list of schools and districts that have already done this work: Colonial, Haverford, Radnor, Marple Newtown, Upper Darby, Upper Merion, Marion Mercy, Notre Dame, Episcopal, LaSalle, Devon Prep, Shipley, and Baldwin. I understand your hesitance and I understand your desire to follow, not lead on this. We're at the point where the decision needs to be made, so it's time to make it. Now, not in March. Wait and see isn't appropriate anymore. Whatever it actually is, it looks like laziness, weakness, and apathy. You don't need a continuing reduction in incidence or positivity to make your plan. You don't need to worry about Mask to Stay. We're 2 years in, we know what works, we have the resources, let's just do it.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Chang. I'm an 8th grader at Welsh Valley. Good evening, Dr. Moomin and school board. In 2 weeks, my fellow students and I will have experienced 2 years of the pandemic. I was in 6th grade when we had to stay home and begin virtual school. In 7th grade, we had hybrid school and I missed out on many club and sports activities. Now in 8th grade, my classmates and I were not able to visit the high schools in person. I have had no field trips in middle school and my winter choir concert was canceled. I hope my class can be together for some nice spring activities and a special promotion ceremony where my family can all attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chang.
Christina Chang, Penn Valley. Good evening, Dr. Moomin, school board. I came across a quote this evening that I really appreciated. When you talk about leadership, you hear the word bold. But there's an opportunity for leadership to be more proactive instead of reactive. I really like that quote of yours, Dr. Moomin. This past weekend, there was an Inquirer article where CHOP Policy Lab's Dr. Rubin was quoted. He said, requiring or mandating mitigation strategies is about eliminating exposure risk for everyone. Dr. Rubin went on to say, I don't think that we need to have that threshold at this point. Given declines in case rates and hospitalization from COVID-19 and the availability of vaccines and boosters, people can make their own choices around masking depending on their personal risks and risk tolerance. Montgomery County reported that 95% of our population have at least one COVID shot. Within Lower Merion School District, over 80%, upper 80% of our secondary school students have been vaccinated. And then within elementary schools, I saw that the updates were made today, and a high 60% of our elementary school kids have been boosted, vaccinated. So it feels reactive. It doesn't feel proactive when we talk about coming here again March 14th and then possibly having a plan to move forward. When Colonial will move forward March 3rd with mass optional, Haverford School District will move forward February 28th. Radnor's voting tonight. I'm not sure what the outcome is. All suburban parochial schools have announced mass optional February 28th. Many local private schools, the Haverford School, February 28th. Marion Mercy Academy in Lower Merion Township, February 28th. What else? Shipley in our township, February 28th. Baldwin in Lower Merion Township, March 1st. So it feels like a lot of the leaders in Lower Merion Township and our surrounding regions have moved forward proactively and not following Montco guidance, and I believe we have the opportunity to do the same. Thank you.
Jamie, then after Jamie, we have Andrew DeZio, Josh Baxter, and Christina Nicolosi.
Okay. Jamie Bassman, Ardmore. Good evening. A couple of things I want to talk about that are both related to student safety. One of them is actually about field trips. And I think a lot of the people who are here tonight could also agree with me that I think it is definitely high time that we really discuss how to get our kids back into field trips and to do so safely and to also do so across the board in a consistent way. My own son is very much looking forward to the music department Disney World trip. And it is hard to think about the fact that he's able to do that while there are other kids that, again, have still been, limited in their recess groups. I did, however, want to say that there was a change, if you're not already aware, in the past week where, Disney World removed their mask mandate. And I don't know that the district has gone back and taken a second look at our testing protocols and also like how we're going to try to reinforce masking on site. We do have an entire plane full of kids that are traveling to Disney World. As of right now, they're supposed to be taking antigen tests 2 days before. There is nothing about them testing basically after they get off the plane and returning back to school. I know it's technically on the honor system, but again, if we want to get rid of the masks and go back to normal, part of that is also taking some responsibility, in terms of testing. I also just want to reiterate that student safety for students of color, for students who are LGBTQ, students with disabilities, again, I know that we like to talk the talk, and we should be walking the walk too, just as we did during the George Floyd protests. I truly believe, based on information that I have, that the incident that was referenced, I'm hoping that would have come to people's attention a lot sooner and that there would have been more of a groundswell from other students and their parents in the class if, again, people were paying attention and, again, just saying to their kids, it's really important to look out for other people around you and to be allies. And, again, that isn't always happening. There are a lot of kids who are really scared to go to school right now because of who they are. And, we should all, I don't know how to tell you, the most important thing you should learn in school is to care about other people, especially, again, when they are more vulnerable, perhaps because they're immunocompromised or perhaps because of the color of their skin. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bassman.
Hi, good evening. My name is Andrew DeZio. I'm a parent of 2 students, a second and third grader at Penn Valley Elementary, and 1 future student. I'm here this evening to share my views on the low value the district seems to place on in-classroom learning time. Specifically, the number of days on the school calendar, nominally 182 at the beginning of this year, has steadily declined with cancellations that are not made up and a proliferation of half-days. There was the closure of the district schools the Monday following the unfortunate death of Principal Hughes. I recognize that's a unique situation. However, I believe the learning should have been made up in person. The cancellation of the first day of 2022, ostensibly for teacher COVID testing. No scheduled makeup. Friday, January 7, a weather-related virtual learning day, a practice that has been proven less effective than in-person education. Again, no scheduled makeup. The last week of school this year recently moved to all half-days, further lowering the number of classroom hours. Elementary school parent conferences, primarily utilizing half-days, further lowering the number of classroom hours. As Ms. Kalish said, Pennsylvania has continuously delayed the release of last year's testing scores. However, data from other states have shown a meaningful loss of learning due to measures taken during the pandemic. I'm going to assume our district has likely seen the same. So that's why I find it particularly disturbing that our district treats the students' time, classroom learning time, as fungible for other uses rather than seeking to make up the last 2 years of sustained, stunted education. So I'd encourage the district to reinstate full days of learning the final Monday through Thursday of this school year. I'd love to see make-up days to replace the Hughes closure and the COVID testing closure. And I'd like to see future calendars designed to provide a full year of full school days that our students need and they deserve. At the board level, I encourage Ms. Shurek with a background in teaching, Ms. Kalish, who I believe campaigned on full-day kindergarten and likely sees the value in full-day education, and also Mr. Mooring, who campaigned on DEI There's no doubt seen statistics showing that the burden of learning loss has fallen most heavily on minority students. I'd like to see them push forward the district toward these goals and to take care of their numero uno client, the student, with full day education, make-up days as necessary, just like we used to do. I'd like to see the kids back in the classroom and learning and making up their lost education. Thank you.
I'm Josh Baxter. I live in Wynwood. We're 2 years into this pandemic. Vaccinations are up, infections are down, and I think it's time that we shift our focus towards a targeted approach that protects our vulnerable while not penalizing and harming our kids. Our school district is acting like it's 2020. We are relying on guidance developed before we had vaccines and before we knew the true risk to our kids. David Leonhardt of the New York Times offers 5 of the most effective strategies of 2022. 1, vaccinate and boost. We already know that we're doing that. 2, wear high-quality masks for the vulnerable, the elderly, and immunocompromised. We know that one-way masking works. Every student, every teacher has access to high-quality masks, and they should wear them whenever they feel like it. 3, drugs to boost immunocompromised defenses. 4, rapid testing to let high-risk adults live their lives. 5, drugs for after you're infected to boost your response. Surprisingly, wearing masks on the playground and not talking during lunch did not make that list. Our kids should be learning and making up the lost time. We seem focused on masking mandates to protect the least at-risk group while taking away normal interactions that are critical for development. And this continued masking policy has done real harm to real kids. My son is deaf. He wears cochlear implants, and he relies on lip reading to understand speech. School has been hard for him. He can't understand his classmates, and we are seeing clear negative impacts on his behavior and interest in school. Masks have been a problem for my son this whole pandemic, so much so that he spent all of last year in the online program, not because we were scared of COVID, but because his teachers and classmates weren't wearing masks online and he was able to understand what they were saying. Now that he's back in physical school, he struggles to engage with his peers and communicate in the classroom and playground. His time on the playground and in the gymnasium is effectively done without communication because he can't hear anyone and he can't read their lips. Simply put, he can't communicate with his peers. He is missing out, and it is not right. And he is not alone. Other kids rely on lip reading and reading facial expressions to communicate effectively, and they are missing out too. This is doing real harm to real kids. Ask these parents. They will tell you it is doing real harm to real kids. We are 2 years into COVID. Every student and every teacher has had the opportunity to get vaccinated. We are in a better position than we have ever been before in this pandemic, and there's clearly a national shift toward giving our kids their normal lives back. Now is the time to lead, not follow. Thank you.
Christina, then we have Andrew Abramson. Did you speak yet? So it's Andrew, sorry. Then we have Christina Nicolosi, Wilson Chong, and Yuri Jones.
Andrew Abramson, Villanova. I could stand here, cite research and evidence that shows not only do masks not work, but they actually severely negatively impact our kids on so many levels, the worst which has yet to be known. But my amazing son already eloquently said that. Since that wouldn't get my message across and so many of you refuse to even listen to any data that doesn't fit your beliefs, I'll share a personal experience. When I was 29 years old and living in Philadelphia, due to a traumatic event and a series of smaller negatively supporting events, I became clinically depressed. I was on my road here, and then in a short period of time, on a new uncompromising road here. I believed I was normal. I was me, but I definitely wasn't. My fiance, and now my wife of 20 years, started me and fully supported me on my road to realization and recovery by reminding me of who I was, what I used to be. on the other road and how that's changed. COVID and its negatively supporting events is the equivalent for many of you here and listening. You are living under a fog and you don't realize it. I feel sad that you don't remember what it's like to go to a restaurant and eat indoors. I feel sad for you that you don't remember what it's like to travel on an airplane for vacation. I feel sad that you actually believe a virus stops when kids and staff take off their masks to eat and drink, and that a cloth mask with multiple openings actually stops this virus. I feel sad for you that you haven't seen your friends or family in a long time, or if you have, it's been under duress for many of you, or you've lost relationships. I feel sad for you that you are so set in your ways that you actually refuse any evidence to the contrary, but yet still feel like you're making an informed decision. I feel sad for you that you believe your health and family's health is so intertwined with others' personal medical choices that you can't see the importance of supporting and bolstering your own wellness and immunity. I feel sad for you that as I stand up here and my son before me, espousing the negatives and impacts of masks, you cannot listen because you are so upset that we're up here saying these things. I feel sad for you that you stopped going to the gym, movie, spa, PT, massage therapy, and doctors. I feel sad for you that you and your kids might live like this for a long time to come. I feel sad that the MCOPH, Lmsb, and many here follow the CDC, even though the CDC just recently admitted to not releasing a lot of data, including the initial Pfizer study data surrounding COVID, for fear it would be misinterpreted and might show the vaccines don't work. I feel sad that you don't realize the issues and flaws and problems that we have. And I feel sad for you that the deep joy of laughter now evades your children, your home, and of course the schools. Please break free of your fear and honestly digest the massively negative impact of the masks, and let our kids and parents make the best medical, emotional, and psychological decisions for them. Now, not March 15th, now.
Christina? I'm sorry, Christina Nicolosi?
I'm Christina Nicolosi of Marion Station, parent of a first and third grader and 2 future students, potentially. I came here tonight to respond to Dr. Mumin's most recent email to Lower Marion families. I have 2 issues with the messaging of the email. Number 1 was outdoor masking. Dr. Mumin addressed this at the beginning of the meeting, and while I think it's nonsensical to make outdoor masking optional, to not make outdoor masking optional now, I thank the district for setting a date to allow for unmasking outside. The second point that I just do not understand, and I'm hoping that the board can clarify for me tonight, is the goal of the district with regards to Dr. Mumin's comment that we have to consider the health of adults who teach and work with them as well, in reference to unvaccinated children, particularly at the elementary level. What risk, I ask the board, does an unvaccinated child pose to a vaccinated and likely boosted adult? Can the board clarify if the goal of the district is to prevent infection in general or severe disease and outcomes? We have highly effective vaccines. The COVID dashboard was recently updated to reflect a 60 to 66% vaccination rate in the elementary age group. We have an over 90% vaccinated staff. Vaccines are meant to prevent the worst outcomes, not to prevent symptomatic infection. Dr. Paul Offit, a pediatrician specializing in vaccines, directly states this. Children are forced to bear the brunt of restrictions. Children who face the least risk from the virus have been subjected to the most damage. They have been treated as vectors, not as human beings, and we've justified it by saying that they are resilient, and they shouldn't have to be anymore. Proportionality is the cardinal principle of public health ethics, and we must restore it for our children. In contrast to the US, many countries follow the WHO guidelines, which do not recommend routinely masking for children 6 to 11 because of the potential impact of wearing a mask on learning and psychosocial development. There is very poor quality data, insufficient to support community masking. Cloth masks have especially bad data. Data to support masking kids is almost absolutely absent. To date, only 2 randomized control studies have measured the impact of masks on COVID transmission. The first found no significant effects of masking on reducing COVID transmission. The second reported that surgical masks, but not cloth, were modestly effective at reducing rates. However, neither of these studies included children, let alone vaccinated children. Schools did not become hotspots when they reopened, when they reduced physical distancing, when they eliminated deep cleaning protocols. These layers were peeled away because the evidence supporting them was weak, and they all had substantial downsides for children's education and health. Masking is the last and most stubborn layer. imposing on children an intervention that provides little discernible benefit on the grounds that we have not yet gathered solid evidence of its negative effects violates the most basic tenet of medicine: first, do no harm. The foundation of medical and public health intervention should be that they work, not that we have insufficient evidence to say whether they are harmful. Continued mandatory masking of children in schools, especially now that most school children are eligible for vaccination, fails this test. Everyone has different risk tolerance at this point, I am well aware. So it is time to pivot towards personal choice on how we choose to protect our families. We have highly effective vaccines. We have booster shots and N95s from the district to protect our most vulnerable. My children have had COVID. I have had COVID. My husband has had COVID twice. We are ready to move on. And at this point, possibly out of the district for the upcoming school years. 2 years into this, and 1 year after mass vaccination,
Thank you very much.
the onus starts to be on the person trying to disrupt normal life, not the other way around. Thank you.
We have Wilson Chong, Yuri Jones, and Linda Joseph. Then Patrick McDonald.
Hello, my name is Wilson Chong. I live in Bala Cynwyd. I'm here to discuss, not masks actually, but the cultural proficiency classes that my child is going through at the elementary school. I did learn that in one of their last exercises, they were discussing their skin color and picking it out on a chart, identifying what their skin color most closely resembled. I became very alarmed when I started hearing about what they were discussing, or the exercise they were having in their class. I started reading a lot of materials. I sent some emails. I got some links towards the overall equity and diversity type materials that were available on your website. I am concerned because I think some of these topics these children are much too young to understand what they are talking about. These are discussions, I believe, that should take place in the home, not in the classroom, with other students and teachers that have no experience with my family's experience here. For example, my daughter is mixed race. Her identity is something that we haven't really discussed at length yet. She doesn't know what her background is, her whole family's history, both sides. And she shouldn't have to try to explain this, talk about this with people that, frankly, she shouldn't be speaking to about this. I cannot come up with any good reason why this is a topic for discussion. What exactly is going on here? What message are you trying to convey to 9-year-olds about their skin color, except to highlight the differences between them? And I don't want to, I will speak in a way that may actually get your attention here. What could your white male teachers possibly enlighten my mixed race female daughter? I am beyond outraged at what's going on here. I do not agree with this school's district's ideas of racism, sexism, or gender identity. I think it's absolutely fine we disagree on these topics. However, once you start instilling your values into my children, I need to voice my opinion. I do not want your values or what you believe is the appropriate position on complex political topics forced upon my children. These are my children, not yours, and I don't think you have the right to push them towards your beliefs. If this was a private or religious school, then so be it. That's what we signed up for. But this is a public school, and these topics have no place in the public classroom. You're also putting me as a parent in a position where I have to instruct my child that their teacher is wrong and that what they are saying to them is what they are told they must teach you, which is political. Then I have to explain to my child that politics is something I will explain to them later in life. This causes confusion to the child and puts the child in a position where they lose trust in their teachers, which isn't good for any of us. And my time is over? Yeah. Okay, all right. So,
Thank you.
just in closing, I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
get this out.
Thank you very much.
I'd really like to
Thank you very
further
much.
continue this discussion if possible.
Mr. Jones, Ms. Joseph, Patrick McDonald, Pearl, we already had, Holly Manzoni, and then Mark Fasano.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Yuri Jones. I'm a 20-year resident of Belmont Hills and a parent of 2 Harriton High School students. And I'm grateful to be able to share my thoughts with you this evening. I sympathize with the district's need to find playing fields for the new middle school. I played hockey, lacrosse, and tennis as a young person, and I am in no way anti-sports, but I am very concerned about the overall health of our community. And I do believe that cutting down the 500-tree forest at Oakwell in Villanova will be a disservice to all LMSD kids. In this moment, there is a well-documented epidemic of depression and anxiety among many of our young people. Of course, COVID, of course. But in addition, the climate crisis weighs very heavily on many of their young minds. There is fear, uncertainty, and sometimes hopelessness about their future. Many young people are saying they don't even want to bring children of their own into this world. And many are furious at older generations for allowing this emergency to happen. Why do we see a surge of activism and protests by young people all over the world? Because their minds and eyes can see what their parents and grandparents often can't. Young people feel driven to lead where so many adults are refusing to go. The Oakwell situation is important because communities large and small must change business as usual if we are going to survive. This is a moment to reimagine our community values. I believe we should continue to think creatively and look elsewhere for fields. And I believe that, I know this is kind of out there, but a far more beneficial use for this property would be to make Oakwell a Lower Merion environmental education center that every LMSD student from kindergarten to 12th grade could visit regularly to make that profoundly important connection with nature. To the superintendent's point about the importance of innovation and encouraging leadership, we could be known as the innovative district, educating the problem solvers of tomorrow about the biggest issue of their time. Every kid knows about Dr. Seuss's Lorax. Let's not play out this story in Lower Merion. We can listen to our young people and take hopeful action to protect their future. Let's be the adult leaders that they are demanding. We can start by saving Oakwell. Thank you.
Is Linda Joseph here?
Pat McDonald from Wynwood. I have a child in elementary school and another child in preschool. I'll be brief. I was pleasantly surprised earlier tonight to hear that we are going mask optional shortly, but still disappointed that we continue to rely on the Montgomery County Department of Health for our guidance. Lower Merion is one of the larger and most affluent schools in the county, if not the state, and it's disappointing that we don't have our own people evaluating the situation. Instead, we wait as every single school around us seems to be going to mask optional. Feels like we're going to be one of the last ones, and my family didn't choose Lower Merion to make their home to be last. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Linda Joseph. I have two children at Penn Valley Elementary. I wanted to, first of all, just commend Lower Merion School District for the education system. First and foremost, I think it's wonderful. It's outstanding. And I wanted to say that I thought you did an excellent job during the pandemic when everybody went virtual all across the country. I know mothers in other parts of the country that, and many friends of mine who were handed a stack of books and some papers and said, you know, good luck with your kids. You're going to be a teacher now. So the fact that I could send my daughter to her room and she could log on and watch her teacher was a godsend. I had a baby, and I think you guys did a really great job, and I wanted to commend you for that. The masking thing is my biggest issue. I think it's just gone on way too long. I think it's affected the kids. It's affected so much of their lives. And my daughter asks me every week how much longer they're going to have to wear masks. She says that her ears hurt all the time because of, you know, the mask in the back of the ears. She can't breathe. When we go to places on the weekends, the first thing she wants to know is whether or not she's going to have to wear a mask. And if she has to wear a mask, she doesn't want to go. She would rather stay home. And she leaves school every night. She goes to her extracurricular activities I take her there. You know, she's around 50 other kids who are not wearing masks. They're all breathing and talking to each other and playing, and we go to the grocery store and we go about our lives, and we all go about our lives maskless as soon as she leaves the school. So I just think that it's not rational at this point. It doesn't make any sense. And also the fact that kids are the least impacted by COVID. They're the lowest risk group, and they're the group that's still wearing masks. And the fact that so many of our neighboring schools have gone mask optional, I just really think it's time to let our kids breathe freely and be children again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Holly Manzoni, then we have Mark Fasano and Amanda Olson.
Hi, I'm Holly Manzoni. I live in Wynwood, and I'm a baseball fan. In fact, 7 years ago, I caught Grady Sizemore's game-winning home run against the Nationals. The reason I'm telling you this is, as you know, I'm opposed to the supplemental fields that you're planning over at Oakwell. It has nothing to do with how I feel about baseball. I love baseball. I think it's a great sport, and I'd love to see the kids pursue baseball and softball. But I think that the decision made by the prior administration was flawed. And here you are as the team of 10. You have a lot to say in what happens with Oakwell. And I'm kind of wondering, have all of you had the chance to go over there and visit the site? It's not a good place to put baseball fields or any kind of fields. It's, in addition to the trees, which we've heard a lot about, it's hilly, it's wet, it would be a muddy mess. It's just not a good place to have fields. Now, you have a lot to say about what's going to happen with those fields. You don't necessarily have the power to say that we are going to build fields there, but you do have the power to say that we aren't. And I hope that you will make the right decision. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mark Fasano. I live in Wynwood. It's apparent that you all don't believe continuing school restrictions past their expiration date is a problem. Your explanations for why mask optional is impossible, despite the fact that every suburban school district in our area is moving forward, strains credulity. It almost seems like you don't think we as parents are smart enough to see that you're stalling and passing the buck to a leaderless and rudderless county health agency, which, by the way, is passing that buck right back to you. So what's the big deal with masking in schools anyway? Masks are barriers. Cohorting, distancing, all of the mitigations and protocols that made schools some of the safest indoor spaces in the pandemic are barriers. I think it can be difficult for us as adults, whose lives and daily interactions are fairly regimented, to inhabit the experiences of children, and therefore to appreciate how much the social emotional development of kids, as well as their psychological and even physical health, depends on the free flow across barriers. At school, this means the kids have the freedom to make connections with one another, with their teachers, with their environment, unconstrained by the various straitjackets that we've put around them for the past 2 years. Some folks counter with, the kids are fine, with masking and cohorting and sitting 6 feet apart to eat their lunches while facing forward and not being allowed to talk and being segregated at recess. Many of them repeat the anti-child canard, kids are resilient. Kids aren't resilient. They just can't articulate the harms we've done to them, except the kids that were here tonight. We should make no mistake. All kids have paid a price for what we have put on them. Some kids have paid a higher price, but all have paid something. Last year, it was perhaps a price that had to be paid. The barriers were necessary to get and keep kids in school. So in that sense, they weren't harmful, they were a blessing. But to keep the barriers up past the point of their utility is not a blessing. At some point, they are harmful. and that point is behind us. Thank you.
Amanda Olson, then we have Meredith Barber, Amy Krimsky, Lori Bomar, and Pax Tandon.
Hello, my name is Amanda Olson. I'm a resident of Bala Cynwyd. I would just like to say I agree with everything that has been said tonight, including Oakwell and the masking. So I'm going to talk about something a little different. One of the things I'd like to note about the COVID mitigations is that it's not just about the masking. It's the masking coupled with unnecessary mitigations, lack of consistency with those mitigations, and lack of transparency on when and how they will end. Regarding the lack of consistency, it's been reported that children at Cynwyd and Penn Wynn are required to maintain a silent lunch. Write that down, silent lunch for Penn Wynn kids, like today, not a couple months ago. Whilst Marion kids and Gladwin kids can have lunches where they talk. That's very concerning, very troubling to hear. There was no mention in your address earlier regarding reducing medications that are negatively impacting our kids. The middle school kids could not visit the high school. Why? If masks work, why? Why couldn't they visit the high school? My son can't go to the library before school to get a new book. He just finished a series. He's struggled a lot with reading. He's been in special ed for almost his entire school career. So he's finally gotten into reading this year in 6th grade, and he finished a series, but the library was closed at the Cynwyd library. So I said, well, just go in the morning. You know, you go early, just pop in the library, get a new book. He said, no, I can't do that. I said, why? He said, well, you're not allowed to go to the library before school. I said, no, you can't. He said, no, you have to sit in the auditorium. Can't go to the library, COVID. And I said, COVID? You can't go to the library because of COVID. Okay. I'd also like to note that the fact that the district is continuing to follow the outdated science of the MCOPH, after they clearly stated several times during the commissioners' meeting that they will not change their guidelines. They will not help districts create a health and safety plan. So we as a district are committing over and over and over again to a health agency that has no intention of updating or providing guidance to our schools. Like we're saying like, oh yeah, we're gonna follow them. Why? Why? We have CHOP around the corner. Other districts have figured out ways to get around the inaction of the MCOPH. And I said this to you last week. You're washing your hands of this. You're washing your hands of it and saying it's not us. It is you. Everybody else has figured it out. You should figure it out too. Thank you.
You all getting a message yet?
Meredith Barber, then Amy Krimsky, Lori Bomar, and Pax Tandon.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Meredith Barber. I am the parent of 2 Harrington teenagers, and I'm also a clinical psychologist. I see adults and children in my practice, and almost daily I hear from them about their overwhelm with despair about the environment. People recycle, perhaps they drive a hybrid vehicle, but beyond that, oftentimes, excuse me, people are frozen in fear. I hear a lot from my teenage kids as well as my teenage patients that the climate despair is very real. In fact, it is actually a growing field in psychotherapy about treating climate despair. As Yuri, my colleague, mentioned, many young people I know are talking about not wanting to have children. They do not see a future for us on this planet. I myself often feel like I have brought my children into a world that is far less stable and safe than the one I was born into. part of the despair is that people feel totally paralyzed about what kind of action to take. Here we have an issue that we can do something about. Right here in our backyards, I know it will take a lot of ingenuity and creativity, but let's please save the 500 trees at Oakwell and tell our children that we're listening to them and that we care about their tomorrow. Thank you.
Amy?
So it's Amy Krimsky. I live in Ballackinwood. I have an 8th grader at BC and a senior at LM. So I have some questions for you that I know I'm going to pose rhetorically because I've stood at this podium before and I've actually never gotten a response from any question I've ever asked on any topic. And it's really hard for me to read you in masks, so I'm going to ask these rhetorically, and my ask is for you to reflect on them. I'm wondering if you're aware that months of school shutdowns, virtual and hybrid school, 4 days a week of school, which no one can understand how long that lasted, and mitigations like social distancing and masking have taken a big toll on our community and our children. Are you aware that our students have missed out on so many important events and milestones over the last 2 years, including proms, graduations, promotion ceremonies, music concerts, visits to the high schools, as you've heard, class trips? Just today, elementary school students did a virtual tour of the Barnes exhibit. How much do you think 9 and 10-year-olds got from a virtual tour of the Barnes exhibit? I mean, please, students are not being treated as your #1 customer. Because if they were, you wouldn't be making those decisions. Are you aware that no other local suburban school are mandating masking outside? In fact, my husband, who's a teacher in a neighboring school district, they not only stopped making masking outside last spring, they stopped February, March last year, but they have daily 15-minute mask breaks outside through 6th grade because they know it's safe outside because of the ventilation. So the kids actually go out for mask breaks outside. We keep our kids in masks outside. It makes no sense. Are you aware that masking people outside is based on outdated data and mandates? Are you aware that our middle school students haven't eaten lunch at a table in school in 2 years and are yelled at if they stand up and try to speak to friends? Outside, they're sometimes yelled at because some aides say they can't wear masks, they have to mask, and others said they don't have to. The middle school basketball team, 8th grade team, for example, they're all masked. They played, almost every other team they played was no masks, and the refs you guys hired, who are 65 and up, didn't have to wear masks, but the kids did. I watched these guys running up and down. I asked one of them, I said, why aren't you wearing a mask? He goes, you think I could run like this for an hour in a mask? I don't wear masks. Only the kids have to wear masks. Only the kids in our district, none of the teams we played. And then their friends couldn't even go watch them. But right next door, and both my kids were there tonight, there was a big high school game that everyone could attend. What is the inconsistency that Amanda talked about? Are you aware that we have very high vaccination rates, especially 7th through 12th grade staff? Antivirals, accessible testing, improved ventilation, a lot more information about the virus than we had 2 years ago. Are you aware this is no longer a novel virus? 90% of us have either had COVID, been fully vaccinated and boosted, or most of us in this district both. Translation, super immune. Last thing, are you aware that there's the FDA-approved antibody cocktail for the immunosuppressed adults and children 12 plus called Evishield? It's used in Israel already, in Chicago, and across the country. That it will provide additional protection and security for the most vulnerable based on the email we got yesterday. It doesn't seem like you're aware of that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Krimsky.
Thank you. If you're aware of this, to make changes.
Please.
We're asking for you, with your awareness,
you
to
very
start
much.
making changes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lori Barrymore?
Hi, I'm Lori Bomar. I live in Ballackinwood. I have 2 children in Kinwood Elementary, and I have 2 children in BCMS. My family moved here in August of 2020. It was incredibly challenging. Incredibly challenging. And to start remote, just sitting in rooms staring at computer screens, And so I was extremely grateful when we got to go back to do hybrid. With masks, whatever, fine. A couple days in school, fine. But it's really hard to connect with other people with something covering your face. And as you can see, I'm just totally adjusting this thing. So it's totally unsanitary. Like, none of us really know, except unless you were trained in a hospital, how to use these things. But it's hard to connect. Children are having a hard time connecting. I was driving to my kids' home for basketball practice and was listening to the meeting and then heard that it would be February 28th for outdoor masking if things keep as they are, and then March 15th or 14th or whatever before we can begin discussing indoor masking. And I just brought my girls home to my husband and my 2 boys, and I just drove back here because that's too late. Other places are moving forward. Why can't we? I see my family in other states and their children have not worn a mask all this year. They never wore a mask to play sports. It's ludicrous. I'm so tired of looking at little girls play basketball wearing masks. It's so dumb. I see children on the court in my son's group pulling it down to breathe. Like, it's just dumb. We are better than this. This is not doing anything. COVID is airborne. It is the air. It is a gas. It is going to find the gap in your mask and it is going to get out. Okay? I don't know why we're still doing this. We look dumb. We really, really look stupid. And this is a smart place full of smart people. We are overthinking this. We need to do less. We just need to take away the mitigations. We just need to give kids back their lives. I'm not looking to hurt people. I am a nice person. I like to follow rules. I bought the mask. I wore the mask. I wore the mask outside. Even when I knew it was stupid, I still wore it. And it took a lot for, like, my husband's very brave, and he would go places and he would not wear it outside, and eventually I had to be brave too. And I tell my kids, and they go lots of places, don't wear masks. We're like one of the few families in indoor soccer that don't wear the masks. And maybe people hate us, but I know this is not doing anything. And I know that we need to start thinking differently. It's messing our children up. It's a weight that hangs on their shoulders, and you might not see it yet. But when we take the mask off and you see the release, then you will know that it was there. Thank you.
I want to rip this mask off right now. That said, good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Pax Tandon, and I'm a resident of Marion. I've lived in Lower Marion the majority of my life, and I'm a former student of the Baldwin School in Bryn Mawr. My full name is Prakriti, which in Sanskrit, the ancient root language of India, means nature. And that's why I'm here tonight, to fight for nature and advocate on her behalf. Those same rights that protect human life and liberty should also protect the life forms and creatures of our planet. Those that don't necessarily have a voice with which to speak in a way that humans understand, but that are speaking nonetheless, I'm here to be a translator for them. The proposed plan to raise 500 mature trees at Oakwell is nothing less than a genocide. It's a genocide of the trees and all of the inhabitants protected by the forest. We know now, based on irrefutable scientific data, that trees are sentient beings who communicate with each other and with the surrounding environment. They nurture and protect the life within them and around them, supporting growth and balance. We kill trees, we kill all of the species that rely on them. We kill a community. We humans tend to overrun anything in the path of our goals. This is no longer an option if we are to survive as a species. Our children will not even make it into adulthood if we continue to cut off their future air supply, adding pollution to the environment and taking down the trees that clean up that pollution. Trees, by their natural biology, take the waste product, carbon dioxide, the waste product of our lungs, and re-engineer it through their daily work to create oxygen on which we subsist. Without trees, we wouldn't exist. Without trees, we would suffocate, just like with these masks on. Trees save us from ourselves and have done so for millennia. Is it too much to ask that since they preserve us, we do them the same kindness? After all, we are related to them. We share a common ancestor with these trees. Though our paths may have bifurcated 1.5 billion years ago, we still share a quarter of our genes. Don't they deserve at least the consideration of a cousin? It's time to get very quiet, mindful, and heed the path forward that's in the highest service. That path is to protect life, not to destroy it. In this trade-off, school children of the main line, like I once was, will not lose life if they don't have more playing fields. They will lose life down the road if they don't have enough oxygen to breathe. Save Oakwell, get rid of these masks. Thank you again for your time and consideration.
That's all of the in-person.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. We now read the online chat comments.
Yes, can you hear me okay? All right, first comment, Maria Strode. Parent of 2 elementary school students, I am deeply concerned about the lack of concern for our most valuable population. Many of the private schools in our area and districts in the surrounding area are going mask optional either the end of this month or the beginning of March. Lmsb has not made any effort to come up with a plan to follow suit. You, the board, hold the power. Please do what is right by our children and give them the option to unmask as soon as possible. Another discussion on March 15th is too long to wait. We should not be the last district to give our families this choice. Other districts in the area, including some in Montgomery. Did you mean to mute me? You muted me. The option to unmask as soon as possible. Another discussion on March 15th is too long to wait. We should not be the last district to give our families this choice. Other districts in the area, including some in Montgomery County, have already been brave enough to put a specific date in place. Do the right thing. Next comment is Pauline Vocal. My name is Pauline Vocal, and I am a student at Harriton High School, and I live in Penn Valley, and I would like to comment on the district's plans to cut down the forest, I believe it's known as Oakwell, to put in new playing fields. I think that instead of essentially clear-cutting a thriving forest, a better use for it would be a sort of center for environmental education, where it is a place where the district students and residents can visit and build a connection with nature. Speaking on the personal experience of my peers and myself, we have an unfortunate understanding that our natural world is exponentially decaying and that the outlook is rather hopeless. I just think it would be very comforting to our younger residents if they could enjoy the green space while it lasts. Next is Michelle McGill, Bala-Cynwyd. I know that you don't actually believe the mistake you made early on in your career is the same and this disgusting incident that occurred at BCMS. I know for a fact that you are well aware of the graphic nature of the video of I don't want to say a student's name, if that's in fact a student's name, of a shooting. I know most adults are aware of this tragic event. With that being said, I'm extremely disappointed that you would even compare the two events. I doubt that you discussed rape while you showed the video to your middle school students like the BCMS teacher did. I don't believe that any parent would want a student to be expelled for making a mistake. This should be obvious. But since you mentioned teachable moments, I want to help teach you tonight. Please don't ever minimize a student's traumatizing experience in an Lmsb school again. This incident was way more than a mistake. Okay. Next is Jamie Selway, Haverford. A parent group has created a petition urging Lmsb to move to, quote, mask optional, end quote, including taking action independent of Montgomery County's OPH optional guidance if need be. Our petition is available at change.org and currently has 238 signatories. Dr. Mumin, we appreciate your transparency, your stated intention to move to mask optional for outdoor activities on February 28th, and your expectation to be ready with a recommendation for indoor activity on March 15th. But if Montgomery County continues to lag the science and ignore the interests of our children, we encourage you to lead our community forward. A great number of us stand ready to support you and the board as you create and implement a mask optional policy. Let bad anti-student public policy beware the Ides of March. Thank you. Regine St. Germain, Penwyn resident. Will the district reconsider giving all of the Penwyn Elementary School 5th grade homeroom teachers an opportunity to transfer and teach at Black Rock Middle School next year, if they so choose? Please answer the specific question. An explanation about the process of teacher assignments is not needed again. Jamie Thurber, Bryn Mawr. I am the parent of 2 elementary school students at Glenwood Elementary. Our teacher and administrators have gone above and beyond to support our kids for the last 2 years during an exceptionally challenging time. It is now time for the board to do the same. I will let other parents advocate for changes to mask policy. My priority is to advocate for the Health and Safety Committee to see the importance of bringing back those things that make school fun, build community, and give children something to look forward. My 9-year-old, once enthusiastic learner, now begs to stay home from school, quote, because there's nothing to look forward to there, end quote. This is not a failure on his teacher's part. He has never attended an assembly, had a field day, a field trip, gone to or performed in a school concert, an outdoor family fun night. Meanwhile, his friends in neighboring school districts have had many of these experiences. If they must be masked, at least allow them something to look forward to. Rachel McQuillan, Penarth Road, Ballackinwood. Please consider an immediate move to mask optional for all outdoor activities, and please expedite a plan for indoor mask optional. Our local high vaccination rates support this move. In addition, speech and hearing issues are amplified with mask use. Adam Schur. Last week in this, many parents brought up well-researched and valid reasons, most notably high vaccination rates and the ultra-low risk profile of COVID-19 for the students in Lmsd for the Lower Merion School District to remove its mask mandate immediately. The school district already ran an experiment that they should inform them that they may drop the mandate use of masks indoor and outdoor. Per the ACGIH Pandemic Response Task Force, and as cited in a January 10th, 2022 Wall Street Journal article, cloth and surgical masks, when worn by everyone, provide protection against COVID for 40 to 60 minutes. Only N95 masks provide all-day protection against COVID-19. The ACGIH is an organization that specializes in providing environmental and health safety workplace research and guidance. All year, students and staff overwhelmingly wore cloth masks, which provided approximately 30 minutes of protection against COVID-19. I have to scroll down. Lower Merion schools did not experience outbreaks in spite of using masks that left kids and teachers exposed to COVID for the vast majority of the day. We should all rejoice by this revelation and embrace this knowledge. It follows that the school district should immediately drop all of its mandates. Jill Altschuler, Marion Station. Can you explain how Policy 340 provides information about how staff educator performance is evaluated? It sounds like it's a policy for having a performance evaluation policy. How are educators evaluated currently? Aaron Bentley, resident of Ballackinwood. My comment relates to the proposed accessory playing fields for the Black Rock Middle School. I request that the LMSD collaborate with the township to pursue non-destructive options for these fields, options that conserve the mature woodland of Oakwell that benefits everyone in Lower Merion and beyond, provides valued ecosystem services and habitat for species. Julie Baxter, Wynwood. Masking is meant as an intervention, and as such it is designed to benefit a population. We are treading into space where their use is detrimental to our students. Please transparently communicate what metrics we can look towards to determine when we can expect to see our students and teachers' smiling faces again. Jeff Webb, Haverford. The young man who spoke first made a far better argument for the mask optional policy than the district has made for a mask required policy. Message. There are too many caveats to remove the mask requirement and very little clarity. It is time. We don't have to lead on this issue as school districts around us are leading the way. Please cut through the confusing talk and bureaucratic processes and end this mandate. Karen Gardner, Ardmore. Why are we the only district wedded to using MCOPH's outdated and unrealistic guidance? Why? Superintendent, you mean you have the authority to make these changes and have no obligation to follow the MCOPH on this. Please stop dodging on this issue. These are tough times, but an overwhelming majority of public and private schools in our surrounding area are stepping up, moving forward, and shifting to a mask optional model. Leadership often means you are making the decisions no one else wants to make. Please be an example to our kids and lead on this. Our kids deserve it after 2 years. Charles Klein and Marion Williams, Bala-Cynwyd. We'd like to register our opposition to the cutting of the Oakwell Forest of old growth trees for playing grounds. No, more than ever, we need to preserve tree canopy. What better example can we set for our children than to demonstrate that the preservation of tree canopy is more important than the short-term need for playing fields? Show them that you also care about our planet's needs. I don't have a full name for this person, so I can't read it. Next is Jen Seichter, C-Z-Y-C-H-T-E-R, sorry, Villanova. I am the parent of 2 children at Gladwin. We know that our staff and teachers are working incredibly hard for our students. I am asking that the Health and Safety Committee come to a decision that end-of-year activities will take place. 4 5th grade trips, family fun night, field trips, band orchestra concerts, etc. can all take place safely. These students deserve to enjoy their remaining time at elementary school. Please consider bringing back these important end-of-the-year activities. Thank you. Leslie Doyle. According to the district's policy, educational equity is a shared commitment to ensure that every student gets what they need to be successful. Practicing equity in this district means understanding the needs of individuals, to target people's unique experiences, and to provide for individual needs so that achievement and opportunity gaps are eliminated on personal and systemic levels. Equity requires that individuals get what they need. Our children are individuals and should be treated as such. My first grader needs to see her teachers' and classmates' faces. She needs to be able to read their lips as she's struggling to learn how to read. She needs to be able to run and play outside at recess without a mask. A one-size-fits-all approach to masking is well past its expiration date, and it's time for the board to step up and make sure that the students are getting what they need in order to learn. We have reached a point of absurdity, and it is time for the common sense to prevail. Chris Huff, Gladwin. Good evening. I am so disappointed in this board. We are dead last with masking policy in a 120-mile radius. I'm embarrassed by the school district. The board has completely lost any and all supporters of any reasonable maskless policy. Please stop the madness now. Maskless in an outside setting is a given. This is not a favor to kids and parents. It's time to go to mask optional indoors. Dr. Mumeen, please be the leader you promised to be. The next one is from Matt Strode. Gladwin. I find it to the epitome of political bureaucracy that our children remain masked and we continue to rely on arbitrary health data from a local authority. I also find it hard to decipher who at this point the masks are protecting. In a highly vaccinated population and a waning COVID strain, I believe that the cost-benefit analysis of mask wearing has been firmly in the cost category for some months. The social and psychological damage continues to happen the longer you keep the masks on, and you will undoubtedly, unfortunately, reap what you sow in regards to the removal of a child's basic freedom. They have sacrificed so much, it is time we do the same on their behalf. A huge shout out to the first student, Doran, I believe, who spoke and for having a voice in an atmosphere that doesn't often embrace dissension. Next is Stacy Walensky from Bala-Cynwyd. Your dates for indoor masking is unacceptable. Many other schools are not following MCOP. Why are we? CDC is looking at worldwide, not regional. Everyone is passing over the bucks. It is not acceptable. Mental health is hurting. You do not need to prolong it. You were following CHOP before what happened. CHOP is recommending mask optional now while we can. Those who need or want to mask can do so with K95. Don't force others who do not need to. Parents need to choose now. Enough saying we are talking about. It needs to happen. Many children are complying because they have to and are being forced to. Step up and take your own leadership like our other neighborhoods' schools. I think she means districts. You are losing trust and patience with much of the community. Parents need to take the choice, not the community. Waiting to moderate with this new variant is not acceptable. Still 2 to go. Ben Sanger, going on Bella Kinwood, parent of Kinwood third grader. Going on transmission rates alone in order to determine mask requirements is fall 2020 thinking. The board should factor in our extremely high vaccination rates, the fact that the current strain is less virulent, and hospitalization rates are normal. It is spring 2022. It is time to move to mask optional policy by February 28th, like so many of our neighboring schools, I think they mean districts, for the benefit of our kids. I spoke last week related to the mask mandate as well as to the effects as explained by my 2 children at Penwood Elementary School. Along with many parents, I am frustrated with the lack of response given to this matter and the snail's pace at which the board is moving on even discussing this issue. Outdoor masking should have never been in place as science has long concluded its non-efficacy. Further, I'm concerned that the exceptionally high tax rates seem to have no impact in moving the discussion forward. I think that was supposed to say vax rates. The science is not being followed and the kids are suffering as a result. On another note, in the past we have parents' surveys surrounding COVID mitigation measures. Is there a reason there has been no attempt by the board to take into account what parents' thoughts are by poll or otherwise in relation to masking our own children? I don't understand why our kids must continue to ignore the negative effects of mandatory masking. Too outdated info by Montgo OPH. This issue needs to be addressed now and not put off several more weeks. This is inexcusable at this point. And that's all the comments except some who are repeat comments.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. At this point, we'll move forward with approving tonight's agenda via consent. Actually, let me take a step back. Thank you. So at this time, we will move forward with approving tonight's agenda via consent. Are there any questions from the board? Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda via consent?
So moved.
A second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Mr. Roos, can you please give us a report on the Sunshine Act?
Yes, there was an information session on last Monday, the 14th. That was not an executive session. There was, however, an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss a litigation matter, Wolk versus Lower Merion School District, Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas, docket number 2016-01839.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. Here are the upcoming board meeting dates, which are held at 8 p.m. here in the District Administrative Office boardroom on Monday, March 14th, Education Committee and Supplementary regular board meeting. And then on Monday, March 21st is our regular business board meeting. Upcoming committee meetings include the February 23rd, tomorrow night, the ad hoc meeting for equity and anti-racism. That meeting will be on Zoom at 7 p.m. On March 2nd, Wednesday, March 2nd is the next curriculum committee meeting that will be here in the boardroom and live streamed at 8:30 a.m. Friday, March 4th is the policy committee. Thursday, March 17th is the facilities and purchasing committee. March 23rd is the finance committee. It'll be the operations budget review. And then finally, March 30th is the next communications meeting at 7. That one is at 7 p.m. and not at 8:30 a.m. Some additional activities going on in the district that I just want to highlight all around sort of our arts education programming. The Interschool Council's annual art show will be held at the Mainline Art Center from March 5th through March 12th. Dr. Harrington is this coming Friday night. I highly encourage everyone to go or watch via live stream. It is a great fundraiser. It is fundraising this year for the Lower Merion Township Scholarship Fund, which provides aid to students in need that are graduates of our high schools, and also for the Sean A. Hughes Children's Trust are the two charities for this year's Dr. Harrington. Also upcoming is Welsh Valley is having a show of The Wiz, and Bala Kinwood is doing Annie Jr. And then finally, the Lower Merion Jazz Festival is coming up in a few weeks as well. So I hope that you'll consider attending some of these events. Otherwise, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.